Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where we just finished our ELU mission, and let's hop into the mission control because we need to figure out what mission we're doing next. We've got 4 remaining secondary missions, and we will get those done. I'm leaning towards getting this scratched off. We just need to launch a vessel with a lander can and perform a crew observation at Cappy Rock. Okay. Let's go ahead and track that, and let's go into the VAB and see what we want to do as far as that goes. Now, I was thinking about maybe making some sort of a, glide vehicle or something to try to steer it down a little better. I feel like that's maybe overkill. Let's simply put in... Let's see, where's the lander can at? The tin can? Hang on. What did that say? Let's double check that. Launch a vessel with a lander can. What is considered a lander can? Because that's not the name of a specific pod here, is it? Let's double check that. This is a single-seat lander can. This is a 2-seat lander can. So it's a classification. So it actually would have counted with the other one. Interesting. I did not realize that. Well, we're just going to go with a Mark 1 Explorer. That is fine. We are going to want to put some drogue chutes on it. I'll do 2 drogue chutes. I'm going to put those here. And then we're going to do 2 main chutes on it. So radial mount mains about like this. There we go. Then we just need to land this thing, right? And I'd like to have it be like in some way steerable. Grid fins would potentially be a way to do that. But without something like KER to see what our landing position is going to be, it would be completely by gut. I would just have to feel it out, right? And that's mildly awkward, for sure. So I'm thinking right now, we're just going to put in a small methylox tank here, like so. I don't think we'll include a heat shield. We shouldn't need one. So a small methylox tank and a Terrier engine. Out of curiosity, what sort of... Okay, that's a lot of DV there. Cool. So I do think maybe we do put a heat shield here, actually. We don't really need one necessarily, but we would put a heat shield on like that, and then put in a decoupler, like so. Then all we'd need to do is lift this thing into space. And then drop it right down on our target, in theory. But it's going to be a little precise. It doesn't say we have to land at the lander can. Does it? Okay. I'm thinking about making some alterations to this idea. And the alterations that we would make to the idea would include... I don't think we necessarily need a truss or an adapter. A panel might be okay here, but what I'm really thinking we would want would be some sort of a body, like a lander body, right? Like a rover body. Apparently the term body doesn't actually work for KSP2. That's good to know. But I'm thinking we're going to go with, like, rover wheels. That's definitely what I'm leaning towards. What's the 100 meter per second impact tolerance? Wow. Okay, so that's very fast. We should not need any sort of landing thrusters. So that sounds good. And then from there, I'd like to have just some sort of a, like, rectangular body. For sure. So like a rove mate. A rove mate can go like that. That also has decent electric charge in it. And then, as far as these rover wheels go, we can put on... Yeah, I thought it might do something kind of like that. That is definitely not what we're angling for here. Neither is this. Okay, we're going to have to switch this over to mirror symmetry. And we put in a wheel like here. Although I'm not convinced that that's actually angled the way I want it to be. I want it to go, I think, more like this. Yeah, we can see the way that the suspension is. So that is correct. So we want to do like that. Now, these are obviously too large. We're going to have to go with the smaller wheels, but that is okay. We're not going to be impacting at 100 meters per second. So smaller wheels here would be rotated to be like this. Like that. So the idea is that this is going to land under the power of the parachute. And then we're going to drive it the distance that we need to get to Copy Rock. So then this would go here and would be our second stage. As far as what we want up top, honestly, something like a parachute nose cone would be fine. Just to guarantee that we're going to be small enough. And then we're going to need to lift this. But before we do, I'm going to save this, not as new workspace, but rather as, what do we even want to call this? I'm going to save it as Capo Rock. Okay, so we're going to save that and put this out on the pad. We're not going to launch this, obviously. It's not going to go anywhere. But what I want to do is I want to check the wheels. That seems acceptable. They're rotating the same direction, and the turning seems good. Okay, so we're going to revert that back to the VAB. And now we're going to need to lift this thing. All we got to do is put it into low Kerbal orbit. So that'll be absolutely fine. Targeting an orbit of like just over 70 kilometers. Okay, so we're going to put in a decoupler here. This will be a small decoupler. And then we're going to put in a adapter potentially to go up to like 2.5 meter. We're not really going to need it, but yeah, let's do a like large adapter, or actually a medium adapter is what we would need. Okay, and then we would just put in like a single, not you, a single big orange tank here, although it's not exactly orange. And then we would lift this with maybe just like a mainsail. Would be the concept here. What's that thrust to weight looking like? 3.02 is a lot. Although we'd want to check it in the atmosphere, 2.61. So, I mean, we could definitely add more fuel to it. We would have only about 1 minute and 12 seconds of burn time. We could do something like this. It feels like overkill, to be honest. So I think we just go with the high thrust to weight and hope it doesn't burn up. Now, of course, we're going to need to fire this engine in this stage, like so. This should be more than enough thrust to weight and more than enough delta V to get us where we're going, in theory. So I'm going to save this, and we're going to put it out on the pad, and let's see if it burns up. Now, we do need a crew report, which means that we do need a crew. Bill is in this right now. Okay, sounds good. We'll see if we have any major issues with it. So, we're just going to launch this guy and put it into an orbit. I mean, we're going to have to do an inclination change to get to Copy Rock. That's okay. I'm not too concerned about that. I think we've got enough DV for that, for sure. So off we go. Very high thrust to weight, and we're not surprised about that at all. We're just going to look to punch up through this atmosphere. I'm going to put us at up here. Feels a little bit over gimbaled. There's definitely some oscillation going on there. Okay, we're at an apoapsis of about 17 kilometers right now. Now about 20. Okay, I'm going to take us over this way. Okay, that is quite the aerodynamics that this thing's rocking. Noted. That is some extreme aerodynamics. It really doesn't like doing this. Okay, we brought it back up to up. But that did cost us some fuel. It probably doesn't matter all that much. Okay, so I have no idea what our inclination is like here. It's not great. And we are definitely struggling to hold attitude. I don't really want to be out on this 225 degree marker right now. So there's that. 45 degree, though, that seems decent. Let's bring this around to there. Our apoapsis is quite high. So I'm going to angle us down to about here, trimming down that apoapsis just a smidge. Okay, so we're currently out of fuel on this stage. This is very awkward in terms of the maneuverability of it. No doubt about that. And in terms of actually getting to orbit, this is going to be another, like, 700 meters per second. Okay. This should be a decent inclination to be on, though. So that seems fine. Let's ditch this stage. And let's position ourselves for this burn. Excellent. This is less DV than we were promised. We were promised like 2,300 meters per second here. Uh-huh. That is definitely less DV than it said that we were going to have on this stage. But that might be due to the wheels. I don't think I checked after I added the wheels and the Rovemate. So that is probably what's going on there. Well, let's just warp forward, and we'll see how this goes. I have a feeling we're going to have a little bit of a Delta V shortage because of how awkward that first stage was. The aerodynamics were not great, that's for sure. The aerodynamics were incredibly not great. So we just want to land in the vicinity of Capo Rock, right? And that'll be relatively okay. So we're going to have to try to angle this, because we're only going to have so much DV here. So we've got about 12 seconds left. We're probably going to have to try this. Well, we might have to try this again. I think we'll be relatively okay, though. 2, 1, 0. Making sure that we're in actual orbit here. Okay. The orbit is not great. I blame the tumbling, but that is okay for now. At the periapsis, we could shave back our apoapsis a bit. I would like to be able to see this apoapsis. Thank you very much. Okay, and just do something kind of like that. That's 34 meters per second. Yeah, let's do it. So we'll position for that. Okay, and that'll be in about 6 minutes. Definitely not a perfect orbit. No doubt about that. This will be a 2-second burn, and we're going to warp forward a little bit here. 10 seconds left, and 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay, we'll call that good. Technically, our periapsis dipped into the atmosphere, though, so I want to flip this back around. We overshot it ever so slightly. We might have to do a number of orbits to get this properly lined up. So I do not want to have our periapsis be in the atmosphere at all. There we go. We're now just above orbital velocity, and that is looking good. So now we're going to need to warp for a little bit until such a time as we are roughly in line here. And that's going to end up being out over, like, here or so. Okay, so probably another orbit, I would say. Something along those lines. I think we'll have quasi-decent timing here, maybe. Maybe quasi-decent timing. Okay, so we're coming around here, and the question is, if we were to do a burn about here, we would need to do an inclination change on it, and we would need to do retrograde. And we probably don't have the fuel for all of that, right? It would need to be something kind of like this. I think we're going to have to take another orbit here. In fact, this inclination is awkward. It is very awkward. Okay. So sometime around here or so, I'm going to do an inclination change, and we're going to need to do something not quite that extreme. Something a little bit more like this. That's too much inclination change. We're going to have to back off a bit on that, and then go retrograde like so. A little bit more on the inclination. And come through about over... Not that far. About over here. Okay, let's warp to about here. That's in 11 minutes. This timing is just not phenomenal, is it? And that's because of the current position of this compared to the Terminator. It's going to be dark when we get there. That's the core problem here. So I'm going to shift this a little bit. We want to be overshooting this a fair amount and be like out over here. Okay, let's align for that burn, and we're going to give this a go, but this is going to be very awkward for us. No doubt about it. Okay, let's warp to this burn point. Okay, and we've got about 26 seconds here. I'll warp forward a little further. 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay, so we're burning here. 518 meters per second. I'm a little concerned that this might be a little too much on the inclination change. We'll see. Okay, so we're going to be cutting this burn right about there. Okay, so we're now in position in theory, and the question is, how are we going to do on nailing this? Well, we're going to need to hop over to retrograde. I have no idea how this is going to go. We've still got a bunch of horizontal speed, and we're going to work on getting rid of that. But let's warp forward for now. We'll see how this goes. We've got 570 meters per second, and we're going to use it when we're pretty close to being over this thing. That's the idea. So where is this? Okay, we are passing over that right now. It looks to me like it should be up over here. Right? Let's see, we're passing over that river. It should be up on this little peninsula here. It's hard to see with the Terminator there. The Terminator makes things awkward, no doubt about it. But let's just continue to head in here. And for the moment, we don't exactly see where our target point is, but I think it's somewhere over here. So we're going to need to drop a bunch of speed here shortly, and I'm going to commence that burn about now-ish. I'm just double-checking here. Yeah, about now. We're going to get rid of as much horizontal speed as we can. Yeah, we can see it's right there. So we're getting rid of a bunch of horizontal speed. And then we're going to ditch this as soon as we are done with this burn. 200 more meters per second. We're overshooting this now. I think we might overshoot the land overall. Yeah, we're too high up right now. Okay. So that is awkward. We'll see if we can, like, make our way through the water here. I have no idea if we can. Okay, so we're having some heating issues. If this burns off, then we're going to have to abort this and call this a failure and try this again. Okay. So we have no way to move that now. That's noted. So at this point, we would, of course, just bring this on in as it is. It's going to slow down enough. We can get these chutes out. We can recover it. I'm just going to revert it for the sake of time here. This is a completely safe landing for Bill, but that is a failed attempt. We'll try it again. We're going to revert back to the VAB. And I'm going to make some changes in how we do that overall flight. I'm not going to make any significant rocket changes. I think we've got what we need for the rocket, but I want to change our inclination a bit. Specifically, I'm going to go for a polar orbit this time, and we are going to maybe extend this tank ever so slightly, actually. So put this to be something like that. Okay. Now I'm going to save this, and we are going to try this again. This time I'm not going to lose control of the rocket on the way up. That'll be a helpful thing. And let's just make our way right on up. We're going to put our apoapsis much higher than we did previously. And we're going to go for a polar orbit here. Okay. So we're just going to sit here for a little bit. It does still feel over-gimbaled. That's understood. Definitely lower thrust to weight, no doubt about that. But that's okay. Excellent. So we're at an apoapsis of 20 kilometers at this point. I'm going to continue to hold us here for now. 30 kilometers. 40 kilometers. Let's try a very gentle turn. Having a bit of a hard time holding it here. But I think it's under control now. Okay, so this is an apoapsis right now of 86 kilometers. I'm trying to hold attitude here. It really doesn't want to hold attitude. Okay, I'm cutting the throttle. And we are going to head up to this apoapsis right here, and we're going to do a circularization burn at that point. That's way too much. I want to have a periapsis here of 72 is fine. This timing, however, is not fine. That's even worse. Okay, that'll do. We'll call that good. We'll try to align to that burn, although it's going to be interesting. We do have a tumble going on here. That's understood. I think it's broadly under control, though. We are officially in space as of now, and it should be absolutely fine. So let's just make our way over. We're facing virtually the entirely wrong direction at this moment. But overall, this looks okay. I believe we have this turn under control now. This aerodynamic is definitely very awkward. No doubt about that. But we have a lot more delta V than we had last time. We're going into a polar orbit here. This is going to be 1,300 meters per second, so we're still going to have a little bit of burn left on this tank. In theory, we could just merge this in to here and ditch this engine. That is a theoretical possibility. We've got about 30 seconds left, and we are absolutely just about in position. Absolutely just about. Okay. Well, let's just put ourselves in here, and we'll insert ourselves into orbit here in a moment. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So about 10 seconds left on this burn. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark-ish. Little further. That'll do. Okay. Now we can come around to our periapsis here and tune down our apoapsis just a little bit. So that'll be a tiny amount of retrograde here. I don't want this apoapsis pinned open. A tiny amount of retrograde here. I want this periapsis to be visible. Okay, that'll do, actually, right there. Cool. So 29 meters per second there. We'll get turned to that. That'll be fine. And it is about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to do that once we get into position for this final burn here. Well, once we complete this final burn, once we get this orbital insertion done. I'm going to put a cut in, and we are going to do the rest of this flight, this attempt, I should say, next episode. Fingers crossed, but it should hopefully be a bit more successful. So we're going to need to wait until we're about here. We'll probably have to do a bit of an inclination change and bring it on down. We're going to be coming this direction this time, and, I mean, it'll be a little bit different, no doubt about it, but it should be fine. Let's warp forward towards our burn point here in a moment. We're almost aligned. Okay, let's warp forward. And this is going to be a very, very minor burn. Okay, about 30 seconds to the periapsis. I'll warp us further. 10 seconds, and 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm just going to do this. That'll do. Excellent. So that puts us in our just barely orbit, and that is exactly what we're looking for. We have so much more delta V than we had last time. I did add that tank, but mostly that was just a better launch. That's most of what it was. So that is fine. We're in a polar orbit right now, and we're going to be coming around this direction. So we'll have to do like 1 or 2 orbits before we're in a reasonable alignment to make a run at that, but that will be fine. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy McGar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Tommy Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.